Hello, everybody. This is round 2 of DearBands Live. Just got back from Costco, so I'm still getting a couple things together here. So that's what professionals do. Jeremy Isbell's here. How's it going, Jeremy? Heard an interesting noise coming from my computer here. Kelly, how's it going? So last week we had Luke McKilson, who was doing his dishes and decided to hop on and tell us about what he's been doing the last 6 months with all the fun quarantine summer, COVID summer we've had. Gemma, how's it going? Patterson, how's it going? So I put the word out. See who wanted to hop on this week. I think I hear a knock at the door. Who could it be?
Hello.
Just 1 second. There we go.
Oh, there we are.
Welcome. We got my friend Cliff Menzies and Andrew, is it Parmalee? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you beforehand.
No, it's not Parmesan. It's not parsley. I've gotten all that before.
I was going to ask. I wanted to make sure. Wanted to make sure that was correct on that. From the hard rock band Ottawa CEVILAIN. Did I get that right?
You got that right.
You're the one of few, to be honest.
I mean, you should know by now.
I should, and I was half joking about that. Because we had to talk about that. So our last show, like Tense Machine's last show, was with you guys. And where were we? We were in London.
Windsor.
Yeah, it was close. We stopped in London. Yeah, we were in Windsor with you guys, and we were chatting about that. We were chatting about the band name.
Yep.
And like, not to say there was doubts about the band name, but just like, so yeah, Cliff and I were chatting about it, and just like the idea of people not pronouncing it right.
That's news to me. No one told me about this conversation.
Well, I figured, if you're ever going to talk about band names and changing mid-stride, go to the expert, right?
Yeah. Well, it's different if you got legal paperwork being like, hey, change your band name.
That's fair.
It's totally another thing when you're like internally just like, I wonder what we should do about this, like if this is a problem. And like my stance on it's like your core, like you have such an easy way of knowing if you've got real fans or not, because they'd be able to pronounce your band name or not.
So
true.
There's a funny addition we added on our banner, on our new show banner that we never use because of everything. It says CEVILAIN, and then underneath it has verbatim how do you say it.
The phonetic spelling.
The phonetic spelling is under it, kind of ghosted into the background. So
that's not a bad idea though.
Right.
Do that.
Yep.
Right.
Because my other thing too, it's like if you've got a band name where, because I think one of the first things I did when that topic came up is just like shove it into Google and see what happens. Because like, when it comes to band names, you don't need to worry about copyrights and trademarks. If you just shove a band name idea into Google, they'll tell you. Second to that, it's Spotify. So
yeah, you can optimize your SEO though, like to try and find the misspellings. Right, we get like civilian like constantly. Yeah. So we're working on like fixing our SEO and making sure that like our anyone that searches us like that's close, you'll get to our page. And since we're kind of hitting a bit of a stride, it's a little bit easier now. So it's not so bad as it was when we were first starting, but now we're kind of, I feel like we're over the hump with that a little bit, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm wrong a lot. So
no, it's good. It's anyone who's not sure what SEO means, it is search engine optimization. It's to make sure that you're showing up in the Google searches or the Bing searches, I guess, too. But yeah, it's important because you're not going to get lost in the shuffle. I just wanted to add one of my personal like, I have my own like DearBands games that I play when I'm, but there's one of them is to go onto Spotify. If I think of a silly band name, and not saying you guys band names silly, but
silly.
think of silly band names and type it into Spotify, and not only see if there's any bands with that name, but how many bands have that name.
Right.
And
That's awesome.
and Dead Set Society's original name, I typed that to Spotify recently, and there's still new bands with that name, and I'm just like, it's not a good path. But then also I'm just like, I hope you do well enough. Someone tries to,
How do bands not check? Like, how do you not check and go, that's probably not a good idea?
Maybe they just don't care.
Cliff nailed it. They generally, a lot of bands haphazardly, I think they just assume there's no problem, and
So many problems.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. And one of the things I learned early on, not just from that experience, but just like, if you can't get your .com, you're gonna have problems. Do I care so much about the future of not having the .com? I don't think so. A lot, especially like in the tech world, you see that not a lot of new companies are using .com because you don't want to pay, $8 million to try to pry something away from somebody that bought it for $40 in the late 90s. But it's like, you just add another ending to it.
Yeah.
I
used to be in a band called Crossing Jane in Ottawa, and we were kind of on the same kind of trajectory that Civilian was on, but we stopped kind of before the record, and we broke up. And the band name was Crossing Jane. I thought that was a really cool name. Like it wasn't taken. Like it was kind of weird that it wasn't taken. And then for some reason, crossingjane.com was taken by something else. So we changed it to passthejane.com. And it was
tell
hilarious.
Me you sold that.
Yeah, well, I still own it. I'm waiting for the right offer.
There you go.
That's gotta be worth something.
Exactly. So, but yeah, like it was just like every once in a while you'll stumble on something and go, damn, that's like a sick name. Like, I wonder if it's a name, and you search and you can't find it. And like, that's when you know that you've pretty much nailed something.
Yeah, no, that's the homework you got to do. But part of it too, it's like the legal problems that we had. The major issue of it was cause for consumer confusion. And once that was explained to me from a couple lawyers, I totally understood what the issue was. Because before, it's like, if there's no other bands with that name, you're like, okay, that's fine. Like, they're different things. But because it was a record label and they still did music, and then the main point was that they put out these compilation records that had that name right on the cover. So, if you had the, what was it? Was it called Passing the Jane? Pass the Jane? What was it?
Crossing Jane, passthejane.com.
Yeah, so it's like, if you had a record label called that put out a compilation with all their artists on it, and they had that right on the cover, and then that would come up, there would be cause for consumer confusion. So it's one
100%.
of those. Yeah, so it's one of those things where it's like, back to the original point. It's like with Civilian, it's like, there's nothing else in your garden, so
yeah,
just make up a word and go with it.
Yeah, and it sounds good. It sounds cool, and
it's just funny because, like, every time somebody asks me about the band name, I haven't exactly put it into a couple sentences yet. I know what it is, but I'm so terrible at explaining it. And Cliff is the one that came up with it. I joined later. So that's what I tell people. They're like, oh, what's your band name? I'm like, ask Cliff. I joined after.
It's tough. It's tough because it's one of those interview questions where I feel like the more you answer it, the better the answer's gonna get. But I feel like with so many band names, eventually it just turns into, it sounds cool.
It's a name.
We thought it sounded cool, so we kind of ran with that. But yeah, no, I thought it was good to start off with that. Cliff, singer, guitar player, songwriter. Do you guys share songwriting, or how do you guys go about writing songs in the band?
Yeah, like we do. I mean, Cliff's the core songwriter for sure. Makes sense. He's like, I don't mean this in a mean way at all, what I'm about to say, but he's the least theoretically understands music.
Zero theory knowledge.
Yeah, he doesn't have any theory knowledge, and for that reason, he makes can often be a great songwriter, kind of in its own right, because he doesn't have the confines of theory to kind of pigeonhole him a little bit. He's kind of open to whatever. He doesn't really kind of know what's going on a little bit, which is good for us because the three of us are all teachers, so we all do that. We all do that all the time. So we bully him a little bit, but Joel does like a big chunk of the writing as well.
Okay.
Because he did a lot of the writing in Crossing Jane, and he's a fantastic songwriter. He writes a lot differently. Kind of writes on the computer, like kind of with the recording program and Pro Tools and all that. Cliff's an acoustic guitar or electric guitar kind of singing guy. So, like in terms of the songwriting, that's the core happens there with those two guys, and then Evan and I usually take it to another level, or we mess with it, or I tell them that I hate it or something, and then we just keep moving. So,
what's that? Another song in 3/4, Cliff? Try something else.
Yeah,
put it into it's like, oh, that's 6/8 actually. Never mind.
There's only so many 3/4 rock beats you could play.
Yeah. So
hey, if one of them's a hit, who cares?
Well,
you know what I mean? Like it's fine, because then Lord knows if one of them's a hit, the next one's gonna be in 3/4 as well. So
yeah. So I decided this writing cycle, I was gonna do everything in my power to have everything be in every imaginable time signature. So
just put two cards down on the table and go, that's it, that's signature.
Yeah. So we've got some 7/4 and 5/4 songs that switch between time signatures, and I'm just trying to mess with Parms as much as possible this time around. So.
There's a song that goes 1, next bar 2, next bar 3, next bar 4, next bar 5. It's crazy. It's whack, man. It's really hard.
Yep.
But it's kind of a cool thing.
That's what you get for teasing me.
I'll just
should have just stick to it.
Should have left me alone.
And Andrew Parmalee is the drummer. And would I say you're the producer in the band?
Yeah,
100%.
I know some people get a bit touchy about those types of labels, but I think some bands they totally understand that, like, it's a hat that somebody's wearing.
Well, we like when we put the credits out, we say it's produced by CEVILAIN, because we're kind of taking the Queen approach,
right?
Where everything is even, because that way we're all equally kind of attached to it, and it's also we want to have each other's interests at heart too. So, as the recording engineer, I could think inherently I kind of have to be almost like a screen, make sure everything that's going to paper is rad and it works between bass and drums. Vocals
very technical term, rad.
Yeah. Bass and drums are talking to each other. Vocals and guitars aren't competing for the same place. There's a lot there. So I got to make sure that everything is fitting. But I think that we all have kind of a say. Like I'm rarely a dictator. So every once in a while I'll drop the hammer. That face over there. But yeah, I am strict at times, but generally, yeah, I'm the screen of the band.
He's very polite about it.
Try to
be
polite
about it. Yeah,
it's
like that was a great take, guys. But you can do better. That was a great take, but you could do better.
Yeah. I was saying, we were talking earlier. It's Parms a little bit younger. He hasn't hit 29 yet, but like Cliff and I. But it's like eventually hit a point where I feel like you just say again.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're hiring me to be a producer and an engineer, that's not the way she goes. But if
again,
yeah.
That kind of brings to the next point. Says the last 6 months, because back in March when we had our last show together, you guys have played in their shows. You played actually a couple shows since then I want to get into. But like 6 months ago, what did you think you'd be doing in the fall of 2020? Like, what did you already plan for?
That's Cliff.
We had tour. We had tour planned. We back in March when all this happened, we put out a brand new EP. I think we put it out just after we played with you guys, or was it just before?
Pretty close.
It was pretty close too.
It was before because Oh man, it was like really close. Yeah, we were releasing it like that. Oh, Take Shelter had just come out. It was just Take Shelter.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So we just dropped a new EP. We were supposed to do a string of shows with Saint Asonia, at that point in time. And then we had just started discussions on getting our US visas to get down and do a bunch of shows. I think we were supposed to, when were we supposed to go out with you guys? That was before.
That was January, yeah.
That was January, yeah.
But like that was quick. That quickly came together.
Yeah.
So like
yeah.
when I got thrown to you, I was just like, you know what? It might be a little too close to figure this out, but like just keep it in mind.
Yeah, yeah. So we were in an album cycle, and we're still, especially myself, very naive to everything that was going on. I didn't certainly think that this whole COVID thing was going to be as big of a deal as it was, and I didn't think it was going to go as long as it did. And we just pushed the music digitally as much as we could, did a bunch of videos for it, and started to pivot as time moved along. But yeah, we were supposed to be on tour right now, and even going into December, we have our rescheduled dates with Saint Asonia, but I don't see that happening.
That's tough. Well, even we were, I think I used the term politely aggressively, trying to get on the Buck Cherry tour when they were coming up here. Yeah. And like that's still, I think it's rescheduled for October, November, but like
November.
Border's still closed. It's not coming.
Yeah.
Some of the concert tickets, dare I say, because I went and took the refund on pretty much everything. But one of the acts that I missed, they're supposed to be up here this month, and they finally canceled it because the borders are not open and stuff like that. So it's like, everything's kind of on fire as far as touring goes, but it's not looking any better right now.
No, I don't think, people planning on touring to the States right now or vice versa, probably
even cross
temper your expectations a little bit. Yeah. Oh, for sure. With everything kind of closing down regionally again. I think if anything, Canadian tour is what's going to happen first, or what's going to come back first.
Yeah.
We seem to have a handle on it a little bit better up here. So could be a blessing in disguise for our market.
Then we run into the joys of trying to tour Canada in the winter.
Oh God.
Which you just don't want to do. Like it not to say like it has to be something decent to make me want to go and do it, but it's like, we know what some of our tours in Canada can look like if you don't have a strong enough headliner to like pull people out. So the idea of trying to go out and perform when you're dry, especially like even just trying to get out of Northern Ontario in crap weather, it's just yeah. When we were out with Dead Set was out with Fozzy, was it not? No, it was 2 years ago.
Yeah,
maybe. Yes, I don't even know anymore. But anyways, we had the one of the bands is from Florida. I'm tipping my tongue right now. Farewell to Fear. They're from Florida, and like their van / bus did not have winter tires. They had all seasons.
Oh God.
And then a trailer. The trailer had brakes, luckily. But like I remember, like when you're down in the States and they find out you're from Canada, like they'll kind of throw some curveballs at you and mess with you a little bit. And this band from Florida thought we were just messing with them. I'm just like, no, we're driving through Northern Ontario. It's like people die. Like you hit a moose. Like you go, you go off the road. You can hit a transport that's sliding out, like all this stuff. And the day that we were leaving Toronto and going up to, I think it was Sault Ste. Marie, I'm like, get up as early as you can and just go, because if it's nighttime, it's too late.
Yep.
And like they didn't like believe me when I was saying that, because we were a little bit late. So we were going to meet up in Barrie and kind of caravan it up. And I told them just get up and go. And they managed to get to the hotel and stuff like that. But we ended up in a snowstorm, and I think it was maybe like an hour and a half away. But you know how far an hour and a half is when you're going 15?
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah, and the next morning they're super appreciative. They're just like, we didn't realize it would get like that. And it's like we've driven through Florida when they've had their hurricanes go through, like the aftermath of it, and like it's pretty messed up. But it's another thing when you can't see the road and you're in the middle of nowhere and you have no cell reception and there's no gas stations. So that's what we have to look forward to in touring Canada in the winter.
So much fun.
we haven't actually done we haven't really done the cross Canada thing. Furthest we went was Windsor so far, and like we've done like, I think we've all in our separate careers, we've all kind of done it in some time we've played some far shows, or we've done the winter kind of trek, and it's almost not like the mental toll it takes on you, and like the stress that it takes on you it's exhausting. And and then if you get there and like the show doesn't have a lot of people, it feels like a lot of energy. It sucks. In other words, it feels like you wasted a lot of energy. And like, it's great to play for the people that did come, but oh my God, it's soul sucking a little bit. And that's why, like, especially now, I am on top of the world being able to produce content from like right here.
Sleep in your own bed. Yeah.
It's wicked. And like, what's great is building monetary value is just as efficient from home as it is on the road. Like you gain new fans support the band on the road. But when you're here, you're able to create content that's forever. And that can be a constant thing for the band that's just out there now. And now you can receive monetary value from there. You can gain new fans from there. You can promote it in different ways. So they both have their pros and cons. And like, for me, this is where I love to thrive. This is where I swim. So for me, it hasn't really hurt too much, like, in the heart. But I know for the other guys, it's like, that's what they love. And I feel bad for them. I get it. But now it's my turn.
No, it's for anyone that's not actually watching, but yeah, Cliff's facial expression there, like, it does sting not being able to get on stage.
Yeah.
As much as you can do stuff from home, and as much as you can make the videos and the content, because like, I 100% agree with that route as far as like being able to create content and put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
My thing is the income streams, and I know it does cost money for bands to go out and tour, but once you kind of get over that hump, you start making some money.
Yeah.
And like, what changed my mind on like how bands can actually make money is when, the first time I saw CD Baby money come in, and I thought the website was broken with how much came in from some of the royalties from stuff getting played on the radio. And also like having access to some of the headliners' contracts and seeing the money that some of these bands were getting to go out and play 75 minutes. And I'm just like, they got $45,000 US to play for 75 minutes. And they're doing like 15 shows in 3 weeks.
Yeah, I know, it's caking.
And there's catering. Like, I want to do that. This is great. So
yeah.
So like, I can see how that jump is there, but I remember, not to keep yapping, but I remember when everything started up, and a lot of people on the label and management side were kind of freaking out and being like, oh, the artists need to start live streaming. And I told a few people in our camp, I'm like, just wait. The bands are going to quit after 2 weeks, after 3 weeks, even the bigger bands, because they're not going to see the income stream from it.
Yeah.
So like, you guys are making this content, and I'm sorry if this is digging a little bit into the personal stuff, but it's just like, you're making this content, but is there an income stream from it?
Yeah.
So stream from it?
Well, here's the thing. Like, we didn't have a huge online platform in terms of like YouTube and videos and cool stuff like that. We didn't have any of that. So we did, but it was few and far between. We had a couple videos up, and we usually went for the high budget, like, music video kind of vibe. And I think this was an opportunity for us to switch gears and switch to content building. And no, to answer your question, like, we haven't seen big income stream from it. We've seen, of course, our CD Baby stuff is still coming in, and like our streaming royalties are still coming in from, especially How It Ends. The people streamed the shit out of that song, and it's doing well, and we see a lot of money there. And that's kind of how I'm approaching everything right now, is trying to build content that can match that level of viewership, because of how much has come in from that. If we can do more of that, then that means that we can do more steady income, which can then just support us even more. So no, we haven't seen anything from YouTube, but I think that like, we're on the building side of things. We're testing out what we're capable of and what we can do in-house, because we do everything in-house. We don't hire out for stuff.
That helps keep costs down in a way.
Huge. Also, you're not splitting the pie. Like, it's we own 100% of what we have and things, and like we try to do it in a way that will benefit us, but again, it's putting in the groundwork. It's putting in like the ground level shit, and then once you can hit that, then sustaining it is a lot easier. But it's getting all the stuff to keep you afloat.
That's been, and again, like back in March, April, that was my thought. It's like present company excluded, a lot of musicians, they're flakes. They can't do the push-ups. They can't sustain stuff. And if they, maybe flakes is too harsh of a word. But it's like a lot of musicians, if they don't see immediate results, they don't think it's working.
Yeah.
And when you talk about even back with touring, it's like, yeah, you go play to seven people, in Windsor, and then maybe the next time it's 12, you're just like, it's not worth going there. But it's like, if you can keep building on that, eventually there's a tipping point where like now there's 300 people that are there. Well, and your content's been so consistently good.
Thank you.
As a band.
The thing is, like, I love it. Like, I love making stuff so much that I actually, the viewership is secondary to me. So I just love creating something that wasn't there the day before and now it exists. And that's the most fun, exciting thing that I want to do with my life. And like the fact that it's not collecting money yet is fine. I've gone through the process of building. That's how we got to How It Ends. We built up the other stuff, and then when How It Ends came out, it exploded, and we had a bunch of other content out at the time, and all that boosted the viewership on everything else. And like, it can happen at any time. So, but I just love it so much. There's just no reason for me to stop. Even if I was getting 0 views, I'm just like, I'll watch it and I'll be like, that's so sick. That video is so sick. I friggin' made that. You know what I mean? So like, it's not like results based for me. And it does get there eventually. You have to market and all that stuff.
That's the plan.
You get there. You do get there. But like when I'm in the process of making it and trying to stay steady with the content, it has nothing to do with the end goal. It's really just, I love doing it. And that's why like this system works so well for me right now. And the band, I guess the band's benefiting from that.
Cliff, I want to say, don't let go of this guy. He's a keeper.
He's all right. He's all right. He keeps me young. He keeps me young. That's for sure.
Well, on that topic though, because it's one of those things where it's like, I'm picking my words wisely here. It's difficult when you really love what you're doing, but you can't pay the bills with it.
I agree.
And it stings. Absolutely. Because it hits a point where you're just like, I don't know how much we can keep pouring into this. And one of the videos I'm working on, we're talking about like what happens when you get older with music, because I've seen so many bands on the edge of being like, I think we're done. They're in their mid 30s, and then COVID hits, and they're just like, it's not fun right now. And like some bands take breaks, and other bands are just like, we're good to hang this up. If you're in a band in your early 40s right now that's still trying to push, it's like, this is the worst thing, because there's no light at the end of the tunnel right now. And there's a big difference between being 39 and being 42, trying to get in the van and go to play, play 7 people in Windsor. So it's one of those things where like, if you still have the time, the resources, and the other income in order to bring in the things that we need to create these products, that's one thing. But it's like, I knew with the bands, like what, and Parm with you, it's like, you enjoy making this stuff. You enjoy the studio life. You enjoy the filming and the editing. But for so many musicians, what they really enjoy is getting on stage. Yeah. What they really enjoy is going to the rehearsal space 2 or 3 times a week, crushing a few beers and hanging out with the boys. And it's like, that's gone. So like, it's not fun anymore. And I would argue for like a lot of them, it's their hobby.
It's funny you mentioned that, because
for sure.
I've like gone to the point where I've created this company in order to facilitate my ability to get better at servicing the band. I don't know if everybody got that.
Yeah.
I was having connection issues.
Just letting it sink. Yeah.
No, it's cool. So basically,
it's absorbing all that.
I have a it's just like my connection was cutting out. So I started Fill the Void the studios as a as a basically just like a lesson thing. Like I was just providing lessons and like low level artist development. And then I started to I started posting videos for the band. And then everyone's like, damn, I didn't know you made videos. These are sick. And I was like, I don't, but I tried with the band. I guess cool. So pay me to make a video.
Let's do
so
it,
so I did that. And then I got my usuals coming in for mixing and stuff like that. So, but the thing is, everything that I do with clients is really just in service of me getting better at the craft so that I can better serve my band. And I know it sounds selfish, but the bands that are hiring me and the artists that are hiring me are still getting that top product. But I'm in my head, for me, it's about getting my skills higher and higher with every single thing I do. So that way the band's standard constantly is brought up. And even when I'm out filming like a friggin' construction commercial for someone, like Joel and I are doing a commercial for a company called AnyTune, and they're just like they're like a music education software. And I'm trying out new lighting techniques. It's a commercial, so I'm shooting it differently. I'm shooting in different modes and like playing with audio and stuff like that. So, but all of it is just like I'm testing this stuff out to see if it'll work for the band, you know? And it sounds selfish and it sounds like kind of like shady.
No, I get it. I get it.
And
I one of the things too, it's like a few years ago, I started thinking more and more about it. And I remember thinking like engineering's gonna go away because more like I always pay attention to what like late teen producers are doing. Because they have no rules, they have very few responsibilities, they've usually got access to some good gear, or they just use what they have and figure stuff out. So I've always been thinking like, what is that demographic doing? And like they were just mixing their own stuff and mastering it and putting it out. And I'm like, okay, well that's gonna continue to be kind of the thing. And when I saw with bands, I was thinking like, you're gonna have this generation of production people that are also in the bands or in several bands, just like we'd have, producers and engineers that work with the same bands over and over again. They've got their clientele or that kind of keeps their own lights on, but also the band just has the people that you trust. And I just started seeing more and more. I'm just like, bands are going to have somebody that runs that production in their band because it's the most cost-effective thing to do. And even with Dead Set, and I was working with Reed and Brendan, and I half jokingly turned around to Reed. I'm like, if you need a drummer, let me know, because like I was just producing at that point. But that was part of the business model, is like you've got a producer that's already in the band, so you don't need to worry about that kind of stuff. So like
exactly,
as much as you like pushing your own skills, it's like there's all these different hats that other people in the band should be able to wear, and those are the bands that I would put my bet on. Like, I think gone are the days where the band's like, I just want to play music, I just want to play songs, and it's just like, that is so not good enough anymore.
Not even close.
Because it's dare I say, it's like you could be the best songwriter in the world, but if you're missing those other pieces to kind of build your team, the other musicians there, and it's like, if I was part of a project and it's like, okay, there's a drummer is great, but this other drummer is great and does production and does video stuff and knows some web stuff, or even though drummer's like not as good. But it's just like they bring other things to the table. It's like, you just like, it's more important to build the team that way.
And bands that find those teams are super lucky. Like even if you have like a video guy that's like, or photographer that's like really stoked on the band, and he's basically like another member of the band, that exists as well. Like I know there's a band out on that does the YouTube thing. They're called Our Last Night, and they do these hard rock covers and or these metal covers and stuff like that. They're rad. They look awesome. The videos are great. The mixes are great. And when I dug into it, the great thing about social media is you can just message them and ask them.
Yeah, so accessible.
I sent a message to one of the guys and I was like, what is going on here? Like, how do you guys do this? How do you put a video out once every 2 weeks with a full cover? Like, that's nuts. He's like, well, YouTube's paying enough for us to like not work there. So there's the time thing, but there's also the guitar player and backup singer does all the mixing and audio engineering, and it's not fantastic mixes, but it's all there and it sounds pretty good. So it's all you need. And they have like another video guy because they need a video guy to like kind of shoot the whole band. But before they did that, they just picked up a nice camera, learned how to use it, learned how to shoot with it, and they each shot each other individually and comped it all together. And that's what we do.
Yeah.
So like
you
there's
gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, and then eventually you just start either getting really good at that stuff, or somebody goes, hey, you guys are sick, I want to work with you, I'm not going to charge you anything, I'm just gonna, like, you build a team that way, right?
Yeah, no, that's the truth right there.
It's how we built our, like, we have a lighting guy and a sound guy, Scotty and Pat. They're awesome, and we pay them every show, and that's why we have a minimum now, because we have overhead. So we don't play those like free shows anymore. We just can't. It's just not viable, and things like that. So the best way to build your team is to have people that are absolutely stoked on the band. That's the only sustaining way that aren't just that just don't charge you. You know what I mean? And like, I know it may devalue some of the things, some of those like art forms within the industry, but that's the only way to get a team. And if you're part of the band and you can do that, then that's 100 times better. So, you know, there's various ways you can kind of go about it, but like, even with our way, like, we can't do everything, you know. There's certain things we need to outsource for, but I would say anything that's within our power, you know, we can't do our own live sound, things like that. Anything that's within our power, videos, recording, all that crap, it's all done in-house. It's the way. You have to do it that way.
No, excellent. Now, it's the easiest way to sell someone on what you're doing is to not have to sell them at all. For them to say, like, we want in.
Yeah.
We want in on this. Because I love the idea of people like, oh, you know, you get good exposure. Like, you'll get, you know, good reach from helping work on this. But if someone's just like, we can make this better. This could be so much better. Like, that's how we want to get in on this stuff. So
I agree.
Lives. Sorry, I want to switch gears for a second.
That's cool, man.
Cliff's only got so much battery life on his laptop. I'm sure he gets
I think I'm okay.
What's it called? Voodoo Fest.
Voodoo Rock Fest. We just played it 3 years in a row.
How was it?
It was crazy. It was really, really well set up. So this is the third year in a row that we've done the festival. The organizer, Joe Matthews, normally does it out of the Napanee Fairgrounds. This time out, he decided to do it on his property, and he's got something like 25 acres or something crazy like that. So, and he owns a construction company, so he just cleared a crap ton of room, made it more than socially distant, set up like all the campsites socially distanced, and built the stage himself, just did absolutely everything for, you know, himself from the ground up, had some help from volunteers, but honestly, it was the best year for the festival, hands down. You know, it was really well run, really well organized. I think it was 13 or 14 total. So how he kind of like supports the festival is he gets some of the best tribute acts from the area that are pretty much sell the tickets for him. And then he's able to fill in the rest of the lineup with locals that he really likes, and he gets something like 200 or 300 submissions a year, and he, honest to God, listens to every single one of them, sees how it fits into the lineup, and builds it that way. So, and he pays well too, which is also really nice.
How many people were there for the festival?
He sold 100 tickets. But then if you include the bands and the volunteers that were permitted to be there under the current regulations, it was probably 120, 130 people, something like that.
I remember doing the math on that, and I'm just like, this could be super awesome, or it could be bands playing for bands. There's nothing wrong with that because this is a special year. Because we could one of those things where like it's like the best and it's super fun. Yeah. But I was curious like how that all actually went.
It sold out in
2 minutes.
2 minutes, like less than 2 minutes. So like we knew that there was gonna be like a perfect, like a good turnout. It was just like And the thing is, we love playing that festival, and like I think a lot of people that it's our 3rd year, so people know us there, and it's crazy. People like Joe put us in a really nice spot, like a nice time slot, and kind of gave our fans the full Civilian experience with like our new light show and everything, and finally got to like road test the new like light show with our new tech, and it was so much fun. Like it was such like a togetherness of the industry. It's only the diehard fans and the bands that were there, so it's all people that were just over the freaking moon to be there. It was so fun. It was wicked. Like everyone's like having a good time. Nobody kind of went. I mean, I should say nobody went overboard, but but it was.
That's a story for another time.
Yeah.
That's a story for another time.
That's hour 2. Hour 2 is
exactly.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, it was cool, and I mean, playing outside is awesome. Playing outdoors is fucking great. It sounds huge. It's cool being outside on an outdoor stage. I'm a very naturally sweaty guy, so getting some cool air on me up on stage is always helpful. I can actually keep my eyes open. So it was great, man. It's such a rad experience, and I mean, you guys should hook up with Joe at some point and do something with him, because he runs great shows.
Oh, that's excellent to hear. We were in touch about it, but just the I had to be honest with them. Just like, you know, if things are okay, we'll probably not be in the country. So I didn't want to like say like pencil us in for it, sort of thing. But
yeah,
I'm glad it still went. I'm glad it still like was able to be a thing, because like that was probably the highlight of the summer for a lot of music fans.
Yeah, because we got lucky. It was like 2 weeks later they cut the numbers down again for outdoor gatherings, so we got really, really fortunate.
Well, excellent to hear. Other one I want to talk about, because you were one of the first bands to play like a live stream show,
like a good one. That was I'm gonna plug him so hard right now. That was JS from Cynical Sons, bass player.
Figured it out.
I would do things to his butt and he would love it. He's amazing. That guy's wicked. I love working with him. We've worked with him a few times. We actually did a feature on one of their band songs, Civilian. It's like a Cynical Sons featuring Civilian. It's just the working relationship we have with him, and he put the whole damn thing on himself, and he obviously hired everyone to do it, and out of his own pocket. Like, the guy just wanted it to happen right away, and that was so much fun. And it was really cool because it's bands playing for bands only, because no one was allowed there. So it was a really nice community of people, and he hired out like my old professor from college, from my audio engineering class and stuff. Like, it was really just a trip down nostalgia lane for some reason for some people, and like it was so well done that I would do it again in a heartbeat. It was really well run, and like the response we got from the fans was incredible, absolutely incredible. They thought it was the coolest thing ever. It was awesome that we were able to like interact with them. We did a restream after it on Facebook. We got to we mixed our own audio for the restream and everything like that. It was quite just like it was a learning experience for everyone, yet everyone benefited such a high level of entertainment from it. So I've seen The Wild did one almost right away, and that one was really cool. And like, it might have not have been to that level of like craziness, but like epic, stage and all that stuff. But it was quite literally a bar show streamed. Right?
Yeah. It was such a cool experience. I mean, like, learning to play to 8 cameras in the room and trying to figure out cues and seeing where the light was going on the cameras and knowing where to look was a learning curve, but it was a lot of fun. I would do it again in a heartbeat. It's a cool way to do it.
2 questions. Sorry, you have 2 questions. One, is it weird playing and knowing there will be no applause after the song?
Yes.
This case, no, actually. Cliff probably says yes, but we played our record from first, like from front to back for the first time, and that's a record that's pretty like emotional, and it has an overlying theme, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was,
and it's cohesive from start to finish. It doesn't. There's no stop in the music at all, so it doesn't really allow for, you know, like applause and cheers and stuff like that. So,
in the context of the show, I felt like it was kind of cool. And it's interesting, as a band, we do not use guitar amps. We run everything through our processors.
And then Axifex or Helix or
I'm a Helix guy.
Yeah,
2 Helixes and and just like an effect, like a Boss GT800 or whatever. And we just run it right to the DI, like right to the PA. Usually, it allows for a lot of great things when you're mixing the show. And
it's probably awkward for the techs in the room, though. Just hearing drums yelling.
If they get it, then it works.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So when we're playing for the rest of the bands, all the other bands finish, and they're all with amps and everything like that. And we go on as the headliner, and all you hear is drums and yelling in the room. That's all you hear. It's just Cliff going, yeah, and I'm just like, I'm yelling while I'm playing too. Like it's ridiculous. But in our headphones, it's like, yeah, this sounds freaking rad, man. Like we sound sick. And then, and so apparently the whole band was like, kind of like all the bands were kind of watching us. And then after the first song, they all kind of just went up to the mixing room and just watched us from upstairs.
Like, what is supposed to sound? Well, I always joke about that. There's the show that the crowd sees, and there's the show that's actually going on stage.
Yeah.
And yeah, with some of the bands, like being able to poke around on stage, and they've got, you know, 4 412s on stage, and then behind they've got 2 Helix rigs or 2 Axifex rigs, and it's just going into their ears, and there's nothing on stage.
Yeah,
it looks loud from the from the audience point of view, but you know, that's a whole other thing. I didn't even thinking about like what that actually sound like if you don't need to run any of that stuff through front of house.
Yeah, it's weird.
Just drums and yelling.
Yeah, even JS was like, let's run you through the PA, and I was like, no, it's gonna be better for mixing if we just don't.
Yeah.
Like it just makes it so much easier to mix. Like so, there's less going on. But all in all, it was so fun. It was so fun. Highly recommend it. Work with him if you get the chance. The guy, he knows what he's doing. And if he ever reaches out to you, definitely like give him an ear, because he's wicked, man.
Sounds excellent.
He knows what's going on.
Second question. So when we're playing, Cliff, when we're playing to people, you're usually like you're playing to them.
Oh yeah.
When you're playing to a camera, you kind of have to be, well, I think the term is camera aware of where the cameras actually are. Did you feel like you were just filming a video, or did you try to just maintain the vibe on stage and not really pay attention to the cameras?
I mean, every time we perform, I try and get lost in the performance itself. That's kind of my bread and butter. You know, Parms likes to, you know, his bread and butter is being in the studio, mine's being on stage. And for the most part, you know, I'll allow for certain times in the sets or in the songs to engage directly with the audience. But for the most part, I'm really playing because I need to get it out. I need to do those performances. I need to play with these guys. And, you know, I was aware of the cameras. I tried to memorize where all the ones were that were looking specifically at me. And lights did come up on them from time to time to show which one was going. So I did look for that from time to time to still try and engage with people at home. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm up there to play with these guys, and I'm up there to play for me and get that stuff out that I need to get out. So it was just another day at the office.
Is there anything you would do differently
for a live stream?
Yeah, for that type of show. Because you guys have done one or done two?
We've done one legit live stream. Then we did one live stream that was a show. So there were 50 people in the room.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I remember seeing that one. But like for a band that's doing that, let's rephrase the question. For a band that's doing one of those live streams, is there any advice you would give them?
Absolutely. Practice in front of a camera. If you haven't practiced in front of a camera before, absolutely do it. Especially when it comes to your positioning on stage. Like the worst thing that you can do is if the camera is focusing on a specific person, and then you're this guy over here going, "Ooh, oh, right now." Yeah, I think, and have a discussion with the cinematographers too, the guys that are running the cameras. With our team, especially with our lighting guy, like he has our songs and our sets down to a T, so he knows where to throw the lights, and I think that helped cue the camera guys as well. So you need to think about the whole production when it comes to the live streams. When you're on stage, when it's a live show, I think you can be a little bit more loosey-goosey with it.
You have to be tight. I feel like you have to practice the shit out of it because there's nowhere to hide, especially vocals. Luckily Cliff's like a stupidly good singer, so like we rarely run into we rarely run into like issues like where Cliff didn't nail it. But the thing is, like, if you're playing it like a real live show and you're gassed and you start to pant, that comes through terribly on a live stream. So pace yourself. That's the key. Cliff didn't really have that issue, but we've done live recordings in the studio before, just for like recording ourselves to see what we sound like. And at times the singers sound gassed because we're like jumping around and we're trying to like condition ourselves for the stage. And then when we listen back, because sometimes we record our band practices and listen back, and the main thing is trying not to get gassed as a singer, because you're going up to the microphone. It's like one of the most like unflattering sounds ever.
Well, that's actually that's a really good point, because like the studio side of things, you take a run at it, you stop. You take a run at it, you stop. Can we take 5 minutes? Yeah, sure. You can't do that on stage. You can't be like, all right, we're just gonna take a quick 5-minute break. We're just gonna turn it into a half an hour because we're gonna start watching like South Park or something. That's a really good point you brought up as far as like how tight a band needs to be to pull a live stream show off.
It's
for
hard.
Such a good chunk of time. Did you say Guitar Hero?
No.
Because that's the thing. It's like you have to hit like a certain level of accuracy. Because the thing too with a live show, and we were talking about it last night on the Tense Machine feed, but it's just like there's always hiccups on stage. But no one cares because it like that moment passes. You throw a note in the weeds, or a guitar solo goes a little too haywire. It's like, we missed a transition or something on drums. It's like, it's one of those things that the moment is gone and nobody cares. But when we're live streaming and it's recorded in real time, and it's nice that you could, maybe re-upload your show and mix it and I'll go on the record and say the amount of live DVDs and live shows that I've been a part of on the production side, and we've retract all the guitars.
Yeah.
And we've gone and cleaned up all the vocals and added samples under the drums. I'm like, the only thing live about this is the video.
Yeah, I feel that. The drums are triggered and things like that.
Yeah, it sounds great, but it's one of those things where just like how good a band needs to be. And then also trying to explain to some people, I'm sure you have this too. Cliff, cover your ears for a second. But when vocalists like they hear something that's off a little bit, it's like tuning or timing, it's off a little bit, and you're just like, no, I can get that. The emotion's still there. Like the vibe is still there. It's just a little pitchy, or it just needs to be moved a little bit. That's fine. But it's like a lot of people were so used to hearing these pristine, perfect vocals, which sound great on a recording.
Yeah.
And I don't encourage people to like, leave all the mistakes and warts and all, because people judge you on that. Yeah. And the idea of like bands going and doing these half an hour to play and nail it. And again, like, what it's like, everyone here knows what it's like to nail a performance and go, there's no mistakes in there. There's only opinions in there. There's no mistakes in there.
There's only opinions.
There's only opinions. No mistakes in there. So the idea of being able to do that, like to do those shows, and where a vocalist really needs to be in order to pull a show off like that. Like,
which
again, props to you guys again.
We're so blessed to have we got 3 guys in the band that can friggin' sing like super well. We have 3 experienced, tonally fantastic singers, and like I'm allowed to say that because I'm not singing, so I'm allowed to compliment my guys on how great they sound. But they're like, all three of them are incredible, and when they're all up there singing an a cappella song, because we do stuff like that, because we can. It's like that's where we shine, and like I feel like on a live standpoint, every single time people will go, "Your vocals are amazing," and it's all down to like, even if the guitar is like a little bit off playing what it's not supposed to be playing, the vocals will still be perfect because it's so damn on that muscle memory that they can't sing a different key for that because they just have it down so much. They've sang it so many times. They've worked with each other so many times. So it's just like your band is only as good as your singer. Your band is only as good as your drummer at a live show. So having these guys up there has been awesome for these live streams. I'm a guy who always worried about how well my singers were going to perform at shows, and sometimes got a little embarrassed when my singer kind of messed it up. And I have not felt that way once with these guys. So if you're going to be confident about a live stream, that's what you got to do. You gotta be confident in your buddies up there. You're all in there working on it, and everyone is seeing you. And there's like more people than a live show usually because people can just watch you in your living room. So you're getting this like super exposed, like broadcasted version of yourself that's just totally live and unfiltered.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. It's like that's the real raw of bands. We can still have all the, hair, makeup, and lighting, as far as like making it look beautiful, but at the same time, it's like there's a lot of stuff. I always refer to it as hiding the body in recording, where you're just like, oh, we'll fix this and put stuff over that, and we'll just kind of hide that and it'll be fine. But yeah, with the live streams, it's like you cannot do it. You have to just make it good. And then I would finish that. It's like, if it's one thing to go on stage and suck, and then have your kind of band blowout. That's inevitable if the band cares. And then go, we need to be better next time. Like as a team, how do we be better about this? But I feel like if you do a live stream and like there's moments that are not that great,
yeah,
you can address them and go, okay, we need to be better next time. Even on tour, it's like that.
There's a problem though, because a lot of bands don't have those conversations. Like it
sucks.
Yeah, they just go out there and they do their best, and that's all fine and dandy. And then when it comes down to improvement, they don't have the ability to talk to their members about what they think that other people could improve on and things like that. People are there's a lot of ego, and luckily we don't have that, really. I mean, everyone does to an extent, but there's been times when we played a show once in Montreal, and I'm not going to go into the details, but like we had a bad night, and it was a bad night, man.
That's the problem. Way too much.
The opening band just kept feeding us shots, and now
we don't drink before shows.
I was the only one that kind of like noticed the red flag pretty early on, and I've always been kind of no, legit though. They'll all tell you the same thing. I was the only guy who didn't like go overdo it, and I knew because I'm a drummer, I have to be very coordinated. I have to be solid. I'm the loudest guy in the room. I have to be solid.
Alcohol does not help your coordination. Is that what I'm hearing?
It makes it worse. I know, it's crazy stuff.
That you sound amazing, but you don't.
Yeah.
So bands, don't do it. Don't drink a lot before you perform.
We had a conversation after. Yeah. We had a conversation after that show, and we were like, and I was so pissed off at these guys that I just walked away.
Yep.
I walked away and I couldn't talk to them for like 20 minutes. I just took off, and they're all just waiting there, and they knew that something was up because I don't usually just take off like that. So I just and then I just had to sit down for a while and figure out how I was going to approach this, because I would have gone off and said the wrong things. And I sat down with them and I just told them how I felt. And I remember like how disappointed everybody was in themselves. They weren't like mad at me for bringing it up, because everybody knew, and like people have the self-awareness should have the self-awareness in a band to know that. And I was very grateful that the guys like reciprocated and realized that, okay, this isn't the way, this is not who we are. This is not what we should do. and we should do better. And now since then, we always use that every time somebody's like it's like sitting at the bar, like not even really ordering a drink. We're like Montreal, and then they're like, okay, hands off.
No.
Well, no, it's a fine line, because I'm of the thought, as much as some people would think I'm very judgmental and hard on people about that kind of stuff. It's like, it is up to you. Like, you have to police yourself with that kind of stuff. Because like, I've been on stage with people that are drunk, like I've been on people that on stage with people that are under the influence. It's just like, as long as you're doing what you need to do, as long as it's not a problem, it's not a problem. My thing is, I've never seen it not become a problem.
It's always a problem.
I've never seen it been like, and I actually, I'll go on the record. I'll say there's two musicians that I've worked with that are like, they're usually under the influence and they're fine. One guitar player in particular I was working with. Now you're thinking, when I was working with in particular, I had a thing in my old studio. It's just like, none of it. The days that we're tracking, like, don't make that be something that I'm like, I'm wondering, is this part of the problem here? And the guy's like, nope, trust me, I'm better like this. And he came back, and his eye, he was like the super red, like stare, like thunder, what is it called, 1,000-yard stare or whatever. And he came in and he laid his solos down one after another, and I was like, you made the list. You're fine. I don't care, because I don't try to not speak in absolutes, but I was like, you've made the list. But I've yet to really meet bands where I'm just like, you think things are fine, but eventually they won't be fine, And the other thing too, not turn it into this kind of conversation. It's one thing to have someone say, I've been 3 months sober. I've never seen someone celebrate 5 years of alcoholism.
Yeah.
Or drug abuse. They don't celebrate that. There's no hat for that sort of thing. There's no trophy or coin or whatever. It's
I just like here's a pet peeve of mine, and like I think we've talked about this before, and it's when bands glorify it.
It's going away. It's going away. And I think
that's great. No, that's great. I'm glad that it is, but when I see it, it literally angers me to my core, because it's like, this is what's wrong.
Well, it's to dig a little bit deeper into that, the idea of glorifying substance abuse and alcoholism, especially in rock music. It's not to say it's different in some other genres, because they glorify it for a reason and it's just strictly for sales. But especially in rock and stuff, it's like, when I see bands glorifying that, most of the time I'm like, it's hobby, it's for fun, and you have this romantic element of what you think it should be. And that tells me you, depending on the age a little bit, you haven't done this for real enough to know what it's actually like. I love seeing bands, and we always joke about it, band's first tour, where like band goes out for like 3 shows in a row, and they tie one on night 1, they tie one on night 2 and night 3, and then they go home and they feel like garbage. Yeah, you can't do 20 shows in 25 days if that's how you're going to run your body.
No,
it will quit on you.
And like, the thing is, like, I just recently kind of came out with like, I had an issue with substance abuse and like when I was younger. And like it's crazy how many people actually have dealt with it that don't talk about it, that know it firsthand. Like, that know there's so many musicians and stuff like that have reached out to me and been like, hey man, how's it going? Like, I went through a similar thing and all this stuff. And it's just like, it's so ingrained into the industry that like not doing it is more rare. Like, not like abusing alcohol every night, like at the bar on tour and stuff like that, is less common, or it's more common than it's not. And that's like a huge problem, I feel like. And like you said, it is starting to go away. And obviously with COVID and everything like that, who the fuck knows what's going to happen after this? Like,
it's going away for years, as far as this especially with alcohol. You mentioned with Saint Estonia, with Adam Gontier a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago, at CMW here. and he was one of the speakers, and they were talking about Saint Sonia and touring and making records and stuff. When it came to the Q&A at the end, when it came to the fans asking questions, it was like, hi, my name's Kyle, and I've been sober for 2 years. And it's like, hi, my name's Brad, I've been sober for 6 months. Hi, my name's Sarah, it's just like, it turned into this thing where they didn't really want to talk about music. They wanted to open up to somebody else that had substance problems and was being open about it, and finding sobriety and finding like another way to do stuff. And like I get goosebumps just thinking about it, because I'm like, that's the core of these musicians. They don't want to talk about music right now. They want to talk about some of these demons. They want to talk about some of these things that are probably really holding them back.
Yeah.
And when you have a music industry where this could be a whole other hour venting session, but it's like, when you have a music industry, as you're saying, that glorifies this, and when you have fans that are glorifying this, and they got this romantic element and think it's fun, and it's like, you're joking about it and you're poking fun at it, but you're also enabling somebody, and you're kind of killing somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's like, the other flip side is when people talk about like groupies and stuff like that. It's like, no, just because you're a female fan does not mean you're a groupie. It's like, you're just like, I don't know, that irks me as well when people say stuff like that, because it's like, you really don't get it.
No.
So
we had a kind of a similar conversation, and now that we're talking about this again from the alcohol perspective, Mike, you and I were on a panel at, was it Indie Week or Canadian Music Week last year?
That was Indie Week.
Indie Week, and there was a couple individuals also on the panel that were talking about, it was bullshit that, rock bands were being stuck in small bars while pop artists were playing arenas. And it's like, well, thinking about it now, like, there's still some of those bands out there that are very much like the sex, drugs, rock and roll. And if you're going to treat yourself as a bar band, don't be surprised that you're playing in a bar.
Yeah. That's so friggin' true. I remember you did say that, and I was like, "Oh my God, Cliff, I love you." No, but it's so insightful, because it's true. Like, you're literally catering to that demographic. What do you mean you're playing in bars? Of course you're playing in bars. Like,
that's why our demographic is staying at 19 plus. It's why younger fans are not getting integrated into our genres, because there's still those big bands that are being thrown out there that are towing that line of being those badasses that smoke on stage and are drunk all the time and have their groupies. And as long as we have bands that are being glorified for that, we're going to be targeted that way. We're going to be paying with rush.
No, there's other thing I wanted to bring. I'm not gonna expose anybody, but just like the ones that are on stage, and it's just a big show. And it's like, I have mixed feelings about that, because there are some musicians where it's like, they've had substance problems, and then they're on stage and they still know how to act that way. And there's the ones that have iced tea in some of their bottles, or like some of their drinks and stuff like that. And they're just giving the crowd the show that they're expecting. But then after, they're on the phone, talking to their kids, and like, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know if this is good or bad, but I also don't know. Again, this is just my opinion. It's like, I don't know if it's healthy for the crowd to really want this kind of ugly version of a person that's probably not really that happy with themselves. And the crowd is enabling it and being like, we want you to suffer for our entertainment.
Yeah. It's better to promote the positive stuff. It's better to shock the crowd out of it than it is to hype it up. Because like, even though like on the superficial side of things, it's best to like hype it up and get everybody like kind of excited. But at our last show, I spoke about mental health, and I got off the drums, spoke to the microphone, and people were like, I was just talking about like mental health problems within our industry, basically. And I said a lot of stuff needed to change. And a lot of people came up to me after and said, I needed to hear that. That was really important. It's cool that you brought this to an event that promotes self-destruction.
Yeah.
And I think that bands need to take that on as a responsibility. We have a voice, fucking use it. use it for something positive. Like, there's so much shit going on in the world right now, and people need to talk about it. They don't need to forget it. They need to process it. So as people that have platforms, we need to learn how to do that. And it may not be your shtick, but find somebody in your band that can do it, and like use your platform for good. And it can be a hard line to kind of figure out sometimes, but there are universal things that are just like positive. It's positive to talk about mental health. It's not a positive thing to talk about drinking and getting like fucked up every night. So, you know.
Yeah, no, I think that's the thing you mentioned, just to find the line, because like by no means, probably some people that are watching this right now just be like, okay, you're backtracking what you're saying, but it's just like, by no means am I saying don't drink, don't smoke, don't do drugs, because I understand that adults are going to do what they're going to do, kids are going to do what they're going to do.
Yeah.
But knowing when something's recreational, knowing when something's for fun, knowing when you've got the space in life where you don't have to be that responsible and you can enjoy your leisure time. The issue with so many musicians, and this is where you run into problems on tour, when you're on tour, you're kind of at work 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Because your job is to not die 24 hours a day when you're on tour. Your job is to take care of yourself 24 hours a day when you're on tour. Yeah. And it's just like, we've had, again, like I don't really drink. I'll have like, and this is my thing for anyone that's just like, oh, for anyone that doesn't drink out there, and I learned this years ago, anyone that doesn't drink out there, there's a lot of energy that gets wasted on trying to explain to somebody you just don't like to drink. They want to like dig deeper. So I'd always tell people, I'm just like, have one and then hold one. Have one drink. The second drink, just hold it the rest of the night and you're good. Because is it your second drink? Is it your 10th drink? Who knows? But if you have one and you hold one, you're fine. But as far as like, again, with some musicians that don't realize like how destructive that behavior can be, and don't just keep laughing. Because I've heard people, you know, not to say lack of a better term, but like I've heard some people's cry for help, and you're just like, you have to look in the mirror. You have to figure this out on your end.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I've had friends that have changed. I don't want to have joke and be like, I'm some of my friends, you know, like sober friend, but it's like, I've had friends where I know when they start messaging or calling or chiming in, it's like, oh, because they're back on the wagon, you know, sort of thing, trying to make sense of life. But no, I think it's great in you guys to have that point of view, and I'm glad we could talk about this stuff, because like that was one of the things I was curious about bringing up, because you did mention that you did post that you did talk at the end of one of the shows.
Yeah, well, there's like I'm 7 years clean off of what I was addicted to opiates, and I'm 7 years off of that. I still smoke weed and I drink every once in a while. Not a big drinker. I drink every once in a while. So I'm not sober, but I'm clean off of that huge demon. And now that I've come out on the other side, it's finally been able to talk about it after 7 years. I've learned that there's so many other people that are dealing with something similar. And if you have a platform and you are somebody that feels comfortable talking about it, that you absolutely should. And if there's anybody watching that feels that way, that they absolutely should talk about it to anyone. Use whatever platform you have. Social media is a great thing in that respect. And it's crazy how much support you're going to find when you do. And like I said, just use that platform. It's very important. It could change somebody's life. It could stop somebody from doing something very, very bad to themselves. And that happened at our show. Somebody came out to me and spoke to, I'm not going to obviously drop any names, but he came out to me and told me that he had a family member commit suicide. And he was like, I've been having really dark thoughts, and you coming up here and doing this today really, really helped. And I think that like I can get through this now. And all it took was one person, and now that's just going to be my thing. Like that's something I have to do from now on. I'm taking that responsibility, and I think a lot of people should have the platform.
It's good. Did we just lose Cliff? Did we just end his battery? Not to change gears, but I was just about to joke. I'm like, if we make it to 75 minutes, and Cliff's battery holds on, because he said he had 2 hours. I'm just like, but what's that last bit going to be like? Hopefully we get him back. Hopefully it's just Hopefully it's
Yeah.
just an internet issue. I guess he'll probably message you or text you or something if he's not coming.
Yeah, he probably will. He might just hop on his phone,
But no, it's a heavy topic, and again, like I
Mhm.
still get goosebumps thinking about when Amganche was talking about it during his when he was doing his panel, well, he was doing his keynote speaker type thing, interview. But I was just like, this is what musicians need to hear when you're talking about mental health too. One of the other panels that was amazing. Oh, there's a knock at the door here.
I'm back.
We thought, are you on your phone?
I'm on my phone now.
Awesome. See, this is the thing. We talked about this earlier. It's just like you just make it work. You just got to make it work. I'm like, you said you had 2 hours of battery life on your laptop, but we're gonna hit 75 minutes. I'm just gonna start chirping you about it a little bit, and then we're just talking about, again, it's just like it, bringing up kind of the darker side of what some creatives and musicians and artists and actors and writers, like, they kind of deal with, because you spend a lot of time in your own head, I think, as a creative. And that CMW in general, there was another panel on mental well-being and mental illness in touring. And like, that's a whole other thing too. It's like, there's one thing I always thought: when a band is on tour long enough to do their laundry, that was kind of the rite of passage, because it's different when you're like, I have no underwear, I have no socks,
it's true,
all my shirts stink, like, what do I do? Like, I need an adult.
You can't just be reckless.
But I think the other, like, rite of passage for touring is when you come home and you're depressed. Yeah. Because, like, it's such a shock to your system as far as, like, what your normal day is. And, like, when you see these I can't remember what his last name is, but he's done front of house. I think he's been out with In This Moment and Pop Evil, and, like, he's done front of house for quite a few bigger bands and festivals and stuff. And I remember seeing him, we were on tour with him years ago with the Papa Roach and Pop Evil, and he was working out backstage, and I kind of, like, stopped him for a second, and I'm like, do you always do this? And he's like, yeah, because it keeps my mind off of other stuff. Yeah. Whatever that, in quotes, other stuff actually is. And he had this amazing thing he wrote after one of these tours where he's talking about that post-tour depression that sinks in, where, like, all of a sudden you're not with your family anymore. Jeremy just put it in the, Brian Hartswick just put it in the chat, and it's like, it was such an important thing to see at the time that I saw it, because, like, I remember coming home from one of the first long tour I did. We were gone for like 3 months, and, like, I felt so awkward in the kitchen. I felt so awkward in my own home.
Really?
Because you're used to surviving every day.
Right.
Like, you're used to stuffing, bagels and Ziploc bags, and, like, making sure your clothes are not messed up, and, like, just all this little, like, living out of a suitcase sort of thing. And you come home and you're like, I have a fridge. It's like, you want to just take all the food and put it next to your bed so no one else takes it.
Yeah.
Do you like did you feel good about it though when you came back home, or was it like a negative experience?
I felt a weight off my shoulder, but at the same time there was this, like, sadness of, like, you're able to relax for a minute, but, like, your what's the word for it? Like, your adrenaline, or, like, with fight or flight, like, your cortisone levels or whatever it is, it's like your body's constantly ready. It's constantly ready for stuff. And I half joke with people, like, touring, like, when they're like, what's touring like? I'm like, well, touring, everything's fine until it's not fine. Like, everything's fine until you got a flat tire, or someone gets sick, or something gets lost, stolen, or broken, or, like, something bad happens back home. It's like, there's all these things where,
what the heck?
Sorry,
it's just my camera died.
You're still with us. You're still with us.
Yeah. It's just my camera. I'll change the battery.
But it's like, everything's fine until it's not fine, but just, like, trying to get those, your own chemical levels, like, kind of balanced again internally. And it's like that, it's a real thing when you're used to seeing the same people every day, and then all of a sudden they're not there anymore.
Yeah.
And, like, you're still happy to come home to, like, your family and your significant others, and for some people, their kids and stuff. But it's like, it's just such a a shock to the system to like come home off tour and then you just want to go back out again. And I remember that year in particular, it's like when we got back in the van and driving down the road to get back to the highway, it's like I felt normal again because it was more normal to be in the van than to be at home.
Yeah.
So yeah, back with CMW, it was just like I wish there was more musicians in there to hear about the mental health side of things because we've been trying to talk about it. And then also like as guys, as males, as like adult males, it's like we do not talk about this kind of stuff. And Parm, you probably have it too. It's like being a producer and working with artists, it's like you probably know stuff about Cliff that probably other people don't know because you probably have deeper conversations about certain because you spend a different kind of like time together. I'm using my words wisely, but I pick my words wisely. But it's like you spend a kind of time. But there's this thing there where you just like the walls kind of come down sometimes, especially when you're working on certain songs, and it might mean something more to the singer than they're leading on, sort of thing. And it's just like when you're on the road, like you have this family, and it's like you have to trust the people that you're with. It's like it's very intense. It's touring is very intense.
It's almost as if you're doing like an adventure race. Like I don't know if you know about adventure racing, but it's like
that's a way better word than usually the way of putting it.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if you know anything about adventure racing, but it's like it's literally like you go like 600 kilometers through like a bush, basically, and there's all these things you have to do, and like that's what this reminds me of. It reminds me of how people get addicted to that like rush, almost like that lifestyle. And then when you're not in it, you're preparing for it, you know?
Yeah, no, it's a whole other thing, you know, as far as that you're getting into. And I think emotionally and mentally, it's like musicians talk about wanting to go out and tour and stuff like that. It's like you can tell people who've like done it. And, you know, like I have not been in the military, but it's like mentally, it's like that's my tour of duty. That's my war. It's like every day you have to take care of the people around you and take care of yourself. And you're just at this heightened level of awareness at all times.
Yeah. A 24/7 job it is.
Yeah.
You know, even doing a one-off show, like it's not as simple as just showing up and playing your set and getting out of there. You know, it's a full day thing, and you've got to be on from the time that you get up until the time that you're done. And you add that into doing a couple shows in a row or a couple shows spread out over a couple days, and you're absolutely right, Mike. You're on the whole time.
Yeah, well, there's stress, and that's actually a really good point you brought up there. It's like you wake up in the morning, and if you're trying to do this as a career, and probably dig into it more because like I think there's other revenue streams that bands can have, but if you're trying to do this as a career, it's like you do wake up in the morning, and I think you do think about the performance that night.
Oh yeah,
and you've got to be on, and it's like, and you're worrying about your body, and I compare it to like, again, like I do miss my adult rec hockey quite a bit, but I don't wake up in the morning and think that much about it. It's like the game's at 8:30. I'll usually think about what I have for dinner, so I'm not like, you know, crazy lasagna guy on the ice or something like that. But it's like, but for the most part, like I'm not putting too much thought into it. But like when you're career minded about it, like when you wake up, everything that goes in the tank or anything that like your sleep or whatever, it's like you want everything to just play into try to create this perfect storm of awesome or rad that you can just get on stage and do your job and kill it and you're good. And then you wake up the next day and you want to go back and do it again. So yeah, it's like, it's
adrenaline. I think it has a lot to do with like the adrenaline. Like it is like an adrenaline seeking kind of profession in a way. If you're going to do live performing, I think it's going to come with some level of like spontaneity and unsureness of it. But the trick is to like be able to just be prepared, and you always want to try to be as prepared as possible, and you're never ready for that big thing to happen. Like you were talking about how something breaks. Like I remember One Bad Son was on tour and we were opening, I can't even remember if it was with Crossing Jane or Civilian, but Buddy broke his snare drum. Didn't have a replacement, didn't have an extra skin. So I ran to the car and grabbed mine and gave him the skin. I think it was when Say Yes was also playing. It's Jordan from Lexus on Fire. plays drums, and ended up like having a great hangout with them and stuff like that. But I remember Jordan, Lexus on Fire, and he's in a bunch of other band, Billy Talent. He was buying buying me drinks at the bar, and he was just telling me how hard this life is. Like the whole time, he was just like, it was. I was to him, I was some dude that he's probably never going to talk to again. Even though I was doing my networking thing, but you know, I'm just a dude, and he was kind of venting in a weird way. And I appreciated like his input, and like I really I hold that conversation dear to me now, because I feel like I learned a lot from it. And I think people need to listen when somebody does kind of cross that a little bit. Of course, people have to deal with their own issues and stuff like that. But when somebody brings something like that up to you, like the best thing you can do is shake your head and listen, and just try to like empathize if you can. That can be, it's a tough time. And I think that a lot of bands don't really understand how hard that can be. A lot of bands are like, yeah, I go on tour and like that's the goal. And then they get out there and they're like, this is fucked. What is this? Like, where are my clothes? Like, where are my keys? Like,
yeah, it's not what they thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I try to find the words sometimes, but there's the romantic element of what you think it's going to be like.
Yeah.
And then there's the reality of it. They're like, this is not what I signed up for. And it's like,
yeah,
because they sell you a dream, and
they do,
and I think to kind of wrap some of this up, it's like, not to drag old labels through the mud, but it's like, you'd want to keep your bands happy, keep your artists happy, whatever they needed to kind of blind them from what the reality of things actually were, what the finances actually looked like, what their schedule actually looked like. If you're drunk, stone happy most of the time, like, it's probably a pretty fun job, but they're kind of keeping a lot of things fogged out.
That's what it is. Yeah.
And one of half jokingly, one of the elders was asking, what's the deal with like the drugs and alcohol with bands? Like, why do they do that? Why do they, like, what's the point of all that? And kind of bring it back around too. It's just like, when you guys are on stage and it's awesome, how good is that feeling?
It's better than any drug.
Best feeling.
Exactly. And it's really hard to explain that to somebody, because like when you like, there's a couple like old Zeppelin videos, and I'm just like, the things that I would do in life to be like, to be in that moment with a band like that on stage, to be like, this is, or Mars Volta or something like that. You're just like, when it's rocking, when it's humming, you're just like, I'm getting goosebumps again. You're just like, that's gotta be awesome. And like, I don't want to speak for you guys, but like, if you have those nights where, or those times when you're like, I'm not a big fan of what's going on internally with the band, and then you get on stage and it's awesome, and you like, some of that stuff kind of melts away, and then after the show you can kind of go back to doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
But it's like, people not realizing how good it feels when a band is firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, it's something special. It's honestly, it's like a synchronicity that you have, and it's honestly the mixture between like that togetherness you get with the crowd and with your own band. There's been times, I can't actually put my finger on it when, but there's been times when like the crowd has just been going freaking bonkers, and we're like, and they're just yelling and screaming, and they're yelling for an encore, something like that, and then the other guys turn around and they're like, this is crazy what's going on right now. And the moments like that, you're just like, I know. I kind of sit there. I'm sitting because my legs don't give out on me, but like, I feel like my legs turn into jello, because I'm like, I'm so stoked about what's happening, and the crowd's loving it. And like, that togetherness you get is incredible. Like, I played a show once with Crossing Jane that we did a cover of a Linkin Park song. This was a couple days after Chester's tragedy, and we covered it. It was in our set anyway, and then it, like 2 days before the show, like, it happened, and we were like, oh my god, like, should we still play it? Things like that. We decided to still play the cover, and I had one of the biggest togetherness moments that I've ever had with an audience or with my band was at that show. Joel was part of it because he was singing, but it was one of those like everyone's singing the lyrics, and at one point we just all stopped the instrumentation. Everyone was just yelling it, and there was like 200 people or 150 people in that room, and everyone was just giving her, and it was like there was tears in my eyes. I was just like, it's so selfless too, because it wasn't about us, it was just about everybody. And when you have those moments of like about everybody, that's when you're just like you're overwhelmed with like no drug could ever match that feeling, you know?
Yeah, it's a whole other. Cliff, you gonna chime in there?
No, I just agree. It's there's no other feeling like it. Getting up there and connecting with people on a level where, you know, you're putting yourself out there so much for your art and getting that reciprocated and seeing how it affects people. It's just that's what gets you up to do it. It's crazy.
It's another level, and it's hard to explain it.
It's very euphoric.
People.
You can't, unless you're another musician, you can't do it.
Yeah, that's the only time you get it, and I think as far as like to bring it right back to the beginning, you know, whether you're in this for the money or the love of it, it's just like, you know, as you guys were saying earlier, it's like the content you're putting out, when it does connect with people, it's like that's a high you can ride for a bit. Can't pay the bills with it, unfortunately, sometimes, but at the same time, you're just like, it makes it worth it to know that it was important to somebody, meant something to somebody, or as you're saying earlier too, it's just like sometimes I'm a big believer, it's not what you say, it's who says it, and sometimes you're just the right person to say the right thing to somebody else, and
it's better than getting paid. It is, like, for me, I know life,
I know what you mean. Like my old studio, and I had the glass in front of me to look into the live room, but I could see the reflection from people. And I remember playing mixes, and I could see the reflection of bands. And I remember the first time I saw a band look at each other, and they're just like, "That's our band." And I'm like, I want to do this. This is good. This is a good feeling, because, like, as you're saying, like that's more valuable than the money.
Money's
good too. But like that's more valuable than the money.
Money's necessary.
Because the thing is, if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, it's just like, well, I don't even worry about paying the bills anymore. But it's like, what did you leave behind? And to bring it back around too, it's like, because I've been pushing bands a lot for YouTube these days. Like I think you've got to get some digital real estate going. And as much as we love Facebook, Zuckerberg, don't shut us down. But as much as we love Facebook, it's like, YouTube is going to be a better platform unless something else shows up and Facebook creates it, which they're probably working on it right now. But
that's what we're doing.
But yeah, it's just create that stuff and have that stuff there. So when people want it, like, what's the legacy you left behind? It's one thing to have things written in notebooks, which someone will find an auction off someday from my place. But at the same time, it's like you can just put all this stuff up on YouTube and it's there forever. So
exactly.
Well, I really appreciate two of you hopping on here. We went a little bit longer than I thought, but I've been enjoying the conversation.
We're a chatty bunch, man. We're a chatty bunch. We never get anything done around here.
It's like a session. Like, oh, did you do any work today? It's like, yeah.
We're doing mixing right after this. Joel's here right now. He's upstairs. We're doing mixing. So it never stops.
All right. Well, where can everybody find you? Where can everyone find CEVILAIN?
I spell her name right.
I want to hear from Cliff. Cliff's I feel like Cliff's like, I was gonna say Cliff's watching the hockey game or something, but Lord knows the Senators aren't.
If only.
Right now.
I'm in Sudbury. I'm affected by the CBC or CTV shutdown right now. There's no TV, so I'm just sitting in a hotel room like, what am I gonna do? Go to our website. You can connect with us on all of our socials from there. So it's www.cevilain.com. CEVILAIN is how you spell it. So cevilain.com. We're going to have a crap ton of new music coming out very soon, including a song with Adam Gonche will be coming out very soon.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Huge bomb.
Dropping it at the end. That song will be coming out December, January. Parms, help me out here.
I would say put it out in January. That's
2021. We got a video coming out with it. It's gonna be sick. I'm doing the whole thing. It's gonna be freaking dirty bad.
Yeah. Album coming out in the spring, and busy.
Well, it sounds excellent.
Yeah. Thanks again.
Well, again, thanks for making this possible. There was a bunch of questions and stuff in the chat. I do apologize to everybody if we didn't get to the questions in the chat. But also, I like how the chat sometimes just does its own thing. Right? It hit a point where people were talking about heartburn and Tums.
Chips and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's always stuff going on over there. I appreciate everybody hanging out with us tonight. Again, we're kind of on uncharted waters with DearBands Live, but I still think there's a lot of great information for bands and of all levels, really, to kind of see what's going on here. So,
if you do have questions for us, please feel free to reach out to us.
Yes,
I'm pretty responsive. So, I mean, I didn't even see the chat function, so I didn't see any of the questions.
It's in comments. Yeah, it's
okay,
there.
Yeah,
there's Kylie.
If you do have questions, feel free.
All right, sounds good. Well, I'm just gonna sign off here. Move a second. I'm still figuring out how I want this to flow here. All right, I'll see you guys later. I'll talk to you guys in a bit.
Jeopardy music.
Oh, we'll get there. Don't worry. All right. Thanks again to Andrew, aka Parms, and Cliff from CEVILAIN. It was great chatting with them. We've had some really good talks in the past about their band and music and thoughts on music. There's a lot of things internally, and I'm glad we could touch on that earlier. There's a lot of things internally that I think they've got going in the right direction, as far as band members being able to wear multiple hats. That is going to be such a key for successful bands in the future, and I think this year has forced a lot of bands to draw a line in the sand to decide if they want to move forward with it, or, I don't mean this in a bad way, or if they just want to play on weekends, once or twice, a few times a year or whatever. If you're trying to do this for real, you need to find a way to cut costs, because there's no ways around it. The income from music has come down so much. Even on Spotify income has decreased about 75% that I've seen over the last 3 or 4 months. That's a lot. You lose 75% of anything, especially your income from some of your streaming, like that's going to eat away at you a little bit. So when you can cut some of those costs, and when you're with Cliff and Parms, like, their heart's in the right place as far as their band. They love their band. Joel and Eddie, it's like they also love their band as well. So when you got that right kind of chemistry, that's only going to help down the road. So I wish those guys the best. Definitely check them out again. CEVILAIN on Facebook, Spotify. Stream their music on Apple Music if you're curious, because Apple Music pays the best. It's helping where it counts. So, all right, I think I'm done for tonight. Thanks again for everybody tuning in. This is a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, but we're having a good time, and I had to catch up with those guys. So, all right, thanks again for watching. Actually, I get this set up before we do the thing. All right, thanks again for watching. We'll be here next Monday. I'll pick the time in the morning to see when works for everybody. And I'll have another guest. All right, talk to you guys later.